You telling me the cooch was so good it opened a vortex? This is a continuation of my previous video where I summarize everything that I find noteworthy about the one and only Haunting Adeline. And if you haven't seen it yet, please watch part 1 before continuing with the rest of my video. If not for the full context of this story, at least watch it because this is the only time my face card will look that good. I had my face and hair done professionally for another project before I went home and filmed that video, and I will never look that snatched again, so let's savor it while we can. To recap, Haunting Adeline is a dark romance book that is very popular on Book Talk. It's about an indie writer named Adeline who gets into a relationship with a stalker named Zade. He regularly follows her around, murders the other dudes that she hooks up with, and often breaks into her house to force himself onto her. She has this inner conflict throughout the book of not wanting it on a logical level, but actually wanting it on a coochie level, because she actually finds this really hot. So the whole book is just trying to appeal to people who have this kind of kink. There's even a gunplay scene where he puts a gun up her coochie and she's like, oh my god, this is so terrifying, but why do I like it? We truly find so many amazing things that you can do with a gun. I just know that if Zade had been at the Trump rally, he wouldn't have missed. One thing I forgot to mention in my part 1 video though is that after Zade tortured Archibald and cut off his hands and put it in Addie's mailbox, she actually finds out later on when she talks to the police about Archibald's disappearance that it turns out that Archibald was a bad guy. He was like involved in gang violence and he was also extremely abusive and violent towards his ex-wives. So when the police look him up, they're like, oh my god, that guy? Man, whoever took that guy might have actually saved your life. Like a cop straight up tells her that. And this is just so convenient for Zade's character because obviously he's like the bad boy, morally gray character, and yet every time he murders people, they just happen to be like the worst kinds of humans in society that are worse than him in order for him to actually look better in comparison. So last time I left off the video, Addie was comforting Zade because he was so emotionally destroyed about this kid that was being tortured, and he knew that he could have saved the kid and he blamed himself for it, and he was just being like a tortured hero about it. And then Addie went on a whole monologue giving this inspirational speech about how even though it was sad that this little girl died, sometimes people just aren't meant to live through that trauma, which was kind of weird logic to me because I was like, girl, who made you the author of A Little Life? Anyway, so now we get to part 2 of this video. We will go through a whole journey to get to the end of this book. It's not a journey that many of us want to go on. If I had the choice, I would much rather have a relaxing form of escapism through June's Journey instead, and they are the sponsor of today's video. June's Journey is a hidden object mystery game that takes place in the 1920s. The story is a murder mystery where you get to play the main character, June Parker. She's on a quest to solve the murder of her sister and also learn more about her family's secrets. There's a bunch of side plots with her friends and tons of colorful, beautiful scenery that you get to go through in the story, but my favorite part about the game is that I like the fact that I get to customize and remodel my mansion and my garden island because, you know, in this economy, in real life, I do not have the means to do that. So the escapism is nice for me. It's nice to unwind and relax with this game after I'm done with work and I'm just curling up in bed. So it's just fun to chill with this game, and best of all, it is free to download on your phone. So if you would like to download June's Journey for free, you can click on the link in my description below or scan the QR code on the screen. June's Journey is available on Android and iOS and even on PC through Facebook Games. So thank you again to June's Journey for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the video. Alright, so let's dive into continuing the shenanigans of Haunting Adeline. After we left off in part 1, at some point in the book, Addie, her friend Daya, and Zane are at a haunted fair. I don't quite remember why they were there, but I think it has something to do with Mark the politician and a couple of other bad guys being at the haunted fair, and I think Zade was going on one of his missions to track them down. But when they enter the haunted house at the fair, Zade becomes separated from the girls, which is worrying because, you know, obviously the bad guys are out there. However, he finds out that there is another vigilante out there killing a bunch of these bad guys, and that vigilante takes the form of a little girl. The last thing I expect to see is the broken doll from earlier, the one taunting Mark. Her brown hair is pulled up in pigtails with pink bows wrapped around them. Dull brown eyes stare at me, intent shining brightly behind the makeup on her face. Up close, she's a lot creepier than I had expected. Probably because the look in her eyes is murderous. I glanced down, taking quick inventory of her. She's wearing a thin white nightgown, leaving little little to the imagination. I barely notice her nipples poking through the thin fabric. No, what my eyes lock in on is the outline of a knife strapped to her thigh. My blood chills. If this bitch tries to hurt my little mouse, ... What I found so weird about this new character is that this is some murderous girl. Okay, maybe she's not like a little girl, but she's like, you know, dressed like a doll, wearing like a nightgown. Honestly, I was picturing the girl from Kick-Ass because this is some girl that's running around killing a bunch of people. And also she's dressed up like Chucky's bride, which adds to the whole edginess to her character. I'm like, girl, don't you have school to go to? Where are they? I ask, keeping calm. She seems to know exactly who I'm talking about. Safe from you, she snips. Then she turns her head to the side, staring at the wall. Let the others know 2 women are being followed and make sure they get away safely. I have this handled. I can't help the smirk that tips at the corners of my mouth. While part of me is tripped up on who she's talking to, I'm mostly amused that she thinks she can handle me. Her eyes track something that I can't see, as if she's watching them leave. So, you're crazy, huh? She snaps, don't call me that. You're the one preying on women. I gotta say, she ate with that line, because it is true. I arch her brow on the verge of laughing in her face. That just makes me disturbed, not crazy. Oh, my bad. Sorry for not using the correct verbiage of describing you acting creepy as fuck. Now we're just arguing over semantics here. This girl may be talking to people that don't exist in thin air, but I'm gonna be on her side. Anyway, we're gonna take a pause on Chucky's bride as Zade reunites with Addie at the Hall of Mirrors. This is when we switch to her perspective, and she hears him say, "You all alone, baby girl?" I swallow. Obviously, I whisper, still searching for where he is. It feels like I shouldn't have said that. No one here to save you? A shot of anxiety hits me in the chest. Why the hell would I need to be saved, Zade? You going to hurt me? I try to remember that he won't hurt me. He was just in my bed a week ago, sad and vulnerable. By the time I opened my eyes in the morning, he was gone, and I haven't heard from him since. But my brain is having trouble connecting who he is now to who he was then, because now, ... he looks savage. I'm going to ruin you, he corrects. I take a step back, a lump forming in my throat. His image moves, his body walking in a different direction. Is he coming closer? I can't tell. I take another step back, the adrenaline in my system rising to dangerous levels. He's scaring me. Run, he growls. My lungs constrict at the guttural command. If I catch you, I fuck you. Eyes widening, I listen, my body catapulting into action. I run. In here, I'm completely vulnerable to him. I'm well and truly trapped in a spider's web, and the son of a bitch is poisonous. This is where they are playing kinky hide and seek again in some funhouse mirror place. And now we know the real reason why we are in the haunted fair, because I bet you it is not for actual plot reasons, but in actuality to have a fun location to bang it out for people who want to feel edgy and horny. I'm lost and trapped with a very dangerous man who is going to absolutely devastate me. I don't think I'm running from him anymore, but rather from the person I'm going to be when he's finished with me. I was ready to give myself over to him when he emerged from my balcony doors and came to me with a heavy heart. The man put some type of spell on me, because when he was hurting, all I wanted to do was make him feel better. Give myself over to him if that's what would help. But I know that I would have woken up the next day and hated myself, because I would have slept with a stalker, a murderer, and a man who has forced himself on me on several occasions. I would have slept with a man who doesn't respect my boundaries, my personal space, or the word no. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that's exactly what is about to happen. How do I accept that? How do I toss away the moral compass that's been directing my entire life for a man that I should loathe, but ... I don't. I just don't. He's all those things, but he's also one of the most admirable men I've ever met. The devotion and passion he has for saving women and children stolen away from their homes and lives. He's doing something massive in the world and making impact in a substantial way. I can't even begin to put into words the way he makes me feel. He's such a fucking oxymoron, contradicting in the most agonizing ways. I like how we spent a whole ass page with her just telling us how she feels instead of showing us how she feels. She just lists out all the ways that he's admirable instead of just, you know, having us to do that ourselves. She's like, yeah, sure, he may stalk me, he may violate my boundaries, he may not listen whenever I say no, he may force himself on top of me, but he also believes that pedophilia and trafficking is wrong. And that's so admirable. And then of course, obviously, he finds her and catches her, and he says, you want to know why I love the House of Mirrors? Why? I whisper. Look around you, he commands softly. Hesitantly, I pull my eyes away from his, dragging my gaze across the dozens of mirrors. What you're seeing now is what I see every day. No matter how far I run, how hard I try to escape you, you're everywhere I go. You're everything I see. Loving you is like being trapped in a house of mirrors, little mouse. And I've never felt so at home while being so lost inside you. Maybe they really are meant for each other, because she likes to tell you exactly what's happening instead of showing, and he also likes to tell you quite explicitly that we are inside a metaphor. He's like, hey girl, you notice that the location that we're in has a metaphorical double meaning? Yeah, I know you wouldn't have caught that unless I pointed it out to you. You be okay with other people seeing me naked? I challenged breathlessly, watching my shirt flutter to the black floor. His fingers strut up my spine, slow and deliberate. They burn like lava, searing my flesh. No, he murmurs in my ear. I watch him through the mirror, his eyes drifting down until they're targeted on my chest. The band of my bra tightens, the material biting into my skin before it loosens. The black lacy cuffs supporting my breasts fall and bare me completely. My nipples are painfully tight. When he catches sight of my hardened peaks, his tongue drifts across his lower lip as if he's salivating at the of sight. You want to know what I do? He questions. I would let them watch. I would let them watch me claim you as mine and own every inch of your body. They would watch my cock fill every one of your holes and then watch you cry because of how hard you came. And then I fucking kill them. My cock would still be wet from your cum as I slice their throats from even daring to look at what's mine. Kill them? You mean put them out of their misery? Imagine being the poor bozo that's just trying to enjoy their time at the haunted fair. Maybe you're spending time with your friends or family. You walk into the Hall of Mirrors because you think, oh, that might be a fun activity. And then you see the true House of Horrors. And then you gotta be punished for witnessing it. But I feel like the proper penance for that would be money for therapy. I mean, maybe Addie was right with her inspirational speech earlier. Maybe some trauma is just too difficult to bear alive. He's a monster, inside and out. Still, I feel my panties becoming more drenched. It shouldn't be possible for the body to concurrently feel hate and desire. But I suppose we would all be lifeless without the complexities of human emotion. I like how her justification for being a horny bitch is just like, damn, I'm so torn between my coochie versus my brain. But I guess that's just the complexities of being a human being. No girl, you're just a horny bitch. There's nothing complex about that. Let's see, Grayson Parker, he was better, huh? My eyes widen, confused how he knows him and dreading where this is going. I almost killed him when he ran from your house naked, so somehow I doubt he was better than me. Who else? He says the last word by shoving himself deeper into my throat. I choke and he lets me struggle for a few seconds before easing up. Brandon Havati, Carlos Santonio, Tyler Sanders, ... He continues to list off every man I've been with, which admittedly isn't that many, but it's a lot when you just put their life in danger. So the context for the scene is that he's forcing her to suck his dick and choke on it while he's listing out all the names of guys that she's been with. I don't know about you, but if a woman is sucking on you, but you're too busy thinking about the other guys and listing their names, it's giving me similar vibes to Hooked when I made that video. You sure are way more preoccupied about the other dudes than the woman who's literally sucking on you. And then after she sucks at him, there is physical penetration from his dick to her cooch, and she thinks it feels like my body is on the cusp of bursting. This isn't natural to be so goddamn full. He pulls out to the tip and then he slams his entire length inside of me. So deep, I swear I feel him coming up my throat. Girl, your throat? Is his dick a spear? Is it a literal trident? You need to see a doctor for that, and so should he, because nothing should come out one hole and out the other. But apparently it's what works, because she ends up having the most amazing orgasm ever, and afterward, when she's in a daze from how great that feels, she says, I hope you know I pant. I'm on birth control. He chuckles breathlessly. For now. Weird reply to say, but okay. Why did that shit sound so ominous? Is this a threat now? We are gonna go back to the little girl. So while they were doing the nasty, that girl was busy killing a bunch of people at the haunted fair and going on a murder spree. And in the next chapter, we actually see Zade and that girl team up to beat up Mark, who is that politician that's involved in human trafficking. And so there's a conversation with Mark that reveals more about this secret underground trafficking ring. So while they're torturing him, he finally confesses, okay, wait. So some of the kids we take them to an underground club. You can only access it through a private gentleman's club, Saviors. You need special access to even get in the club, let alone gain access to the ... to gain access to the dungeon. He's kind of being coy about it, so then Zade threatens him some more, and then he says, wait, I said wait, goddammit. We perform rituals on them. That's how we're sworn into the secret society. We must perform a ritual and drink the blood of a virgin. He confirms what they do to the children, the government's involvement, and I make sure to have him clarify the two men left breathing next to him are a part of these fucked up rituals. Can I play now, Zade? Sibby asks impatiently from beside me. She's vibrating with the need to kill, and in this moment, I can relate to the little demon slayer. We have the same mission, and that is to murder some fucked up individuals. So you're telling me that these human traffickers who have been snatching up children because they cater to pedophiles also happens to be a secret society where they sacrifice children in rituals and drink the blood of virgins? This is how I know that nobody working on this book knew anything about trafficking, because this is getting into cartoonish cult territory. What's even more cartoonish is the way that Sibby, the girl that's helping Zade, is being literally like a demon slayer and calling them demons and like talking to voices that aren't there. Again, we have just really gone off the rails here, but I guess that's how you raise the stakes in a story, and that's how you really get to see that Zade is a hero. He's basically gonna save the whole world for us. There's some type of secret underground government, and based on Mark's rant ramblings, they have far more control over our government than I thought. The president is just a puppet, and these people who refer to themselves as a society, they hold the real power. Tell me why you did this, Mark. Why did you insist on going after Addie when you knew she was mine? His chin trembles, the waist of flesh, the epitome of a pathetic old man. She was already marked. My heart drops, thudding down my spine like a deflated basketball rolling down a staircase. I took a picture of her because she looked familiar, and when she told me her name, I realized she was a target of the societies. It worked out perfectly that they happened to call me, and I told them everything. She's worth a lot of money, man, and the society wants her. It doesn't matter to them who you are. It doesn't even matter who I am. When the society wants someone, they get them. And if I was the one to bring her in, I would have been highly rewarded. Zade is so taken aback, and he's like, why would you target Addie? And then Mark says, why do they target anyone? If they're young and beautiful and happen to be noticed, they're on the society's radar. She brought attention to herself in one way or another. It could have been from her books, or you know how women are these days, with the way they dress. I snatch his hand again and flick off another nail before he can finish another stupid fucking sentence. As if showing any amount of skin is a goddamn invitation to be raped and kidnapped. Knowing that Addie was marked doesn't only spark anger, it sparks genuine fear for my little mouse. It never mattered if I came into her life or not. Addie was destined for human trafficking, and the fact that she happens to be the girl I'm absolutely crazy about feels like kismet. There are so many things to unpack in these excerpts. First of all, Mark revealing that Addie is the society's target just because she's young and pretty does not make any sense to me, because again, this is not how victims get trafficked. It's not because they're conventionally attractive. A lot of times when women get trafficked, usually women of color, it is because they are in vulnerable positions where they have no connections with other people, they don't have a connection with family, or they have very dysfunctional relationships with their family. Usually these victims are people who are in foster care, or they are homeless, or they ran away when they were young. A lot of them have substance issues or mental health issues, or they're very financially vulnerable, like they're homeless or they're in poverty. Like, these are the ideal kinds of victims that traffickers would target because they don't have connections with other people who are living in regular society. So it doesn't make sense why Addie was the target for the society, because first of all, she's not even a child. So what is the deal here? I thought y'all were like pedophiles. Second of all, she has a mother and friends, and she's a writer who has book events that people go to. So she's known within like common society. It makes no sense why she would be the perfect victim. And this to me shows that this author does not know how trafficking works. They are not gonna snatch some random ass white girl. But you know what this does tell me? This tells me that their understanding of trafficking is the same thing as like people who post videos on TikTok where they're warning you that if you see powder on your car door, that means that that's a sign for traffickers to mark your car so that they're gonna kidnap you later. Like, that's the kind of fear mongering that they do that usually like suburban middle-aged moms will eat up very easily. Like, I can know the exact demographic of people who believe this kind of stuff. And what's especially goofy is this was somehow spun into like some feminist moment for Zade, where he's like, of course women are being judged for how they dress. But again, that's not how trafficking works. But sure, now we can make you look good because you had some kind of feminist moment, and you're like, don't slut shame the way that women look. Just because Addie's hot doesn't mean that you're allowed to traffic her. So because he's such a damn feminist, he goes ahead and kills Mark, and he doesn't have to worry about being caught because it is revealed that Sibby took the fall for the murders. Sibby, by the way, is the girl that he was tag teaming with. So he summarizes what happens. The cops pull up. Sibby refused to get in, insisting that she needed to stay with her henchmen, men who don't actually fucking exist. And I didn't have time to stay and argue. I had chopped up pieces of body parts in my trunk and needed to not only get away from the police but dispose of the evidence without getting caught. So I left. The police chased me for 5 miles before I lost them. I have backup license plates on hand, so once I got to a safe area, I changed my place and clothing, burned the evidence, and drove home. There are 162 people in Seattle with the same make and model, but they'll never be able to pin anything on me, even if they magically narrowed it down to me. In the end, the police pinned the murders on a mentally unstable girl and an unknown accomplice. I figured the society would look into the crime and find an unknown accomplice suspicious, enough to up and move. But after looking into Sibby myself, I found that she was born into a fucked up cult and wanted for the murder of her father. Her father rivaled Jim Jones, spouting about being God's disciple and tricking hundreds of people into believing in his word. He was a rich man who came from old money. He spent his riches on building a compound for his followers, confining them to a stretch of land for the rest of their lives. That's where Sibby was born and raised up until she committed a heinous crime and fled. There are reports of Sibby's mother committing suicide via poison, and it seems like that's what led to the broken doll finally snapping. She snuck into her father's bedroom at night with a knife and stabbed him to death, 153 times to be precise. Rage was a factor. Sibby made it clear that she's perfectly capable of stabbing a man past her body's physical limits if angry enough. Robert was proof of that. It took 3 days for them to connect Sibby's murders across the country. All cities that Satan's Affair has rooted the haunted carnival in have numerous cases of missing person reports in each location for the past 5 years. If all the people reported missing from Satan's Affair had connections to her, Sibby has killed around 50 people. You're telling me that Sibby has been going around murdering over 50 people, this little girl that has this background story of being in a cult, and she took the fall for the murders. Again, how is this little girl getting away with this? Nobody's calling CPS? The police ain't doing anything? We get a whole background story for her that feels very random and shoehorned in. I have to assume that she must be some character in another book series by the author, or she will be a character that's like reoccurring in a future series, but I just keep on picturing her as the little girl in the Kick-Ass movie, and it's just, I can't take it seriously. It also makes no sense how he miraculously was able to get away with not getting caught by the police. Nobody's gonna pick up his DNA. That's strange. Also, it's established the police chased after him in a car, but he was able to evade them. So surely that means that like maybe they caught a glimpse of him at least, right? They could look at traffic cameras and pick up footage of his face. Wouldn't they post his face everywhere and say that he's a wanted man? Anyway, I'm getting too into the weeds of things with like common sense. And yes, I do find it very fitting that the police sirens have been going off in my background. See, they're still trying to catch Zade. Somehow he is able to elude them despite having the very unique qualities of having one blue eye and one black eye. Anyway, now that we have established that apparently there is a secret society out there, they're not just pedophiles, but they're like weird satanic people that kidnap children and try to drink the blood of virgins. Zade continues on his mission of trying to get closer to these bad guys and going undercover. He's trying to get chummy with a pedo named Dan, and he's going along with their sick and twisted games, and he says, "I have many acquired tastes." "Pray tell, what do those tastes entail?" Dan inquires. I shrug a shoulder nonchalantly and take a sip of whiskey while pulling my phone out with the other hand. I pull up a picture of Daniela, a girl I saved 5 years ago. She's deep in a safe house as she was an orphan with no home to return to when I rescued her. It's an innocent picture of her dressed in Barbie pajamas. What sells the illusion is the haunted look in her eyes and the bruises marring her skin. The picture was taken after we first rescued her. She was 10 at the time, and I made sure to ask her permission before showing this to anyone. This is the first time I've had to befriend pedophiles before I killed them, but I knew that if I was ever going to convince them I was just like them, I'd need to show proof. This guy truly just watched episodes of How to Catch a Predator and made it his whole life mission to be Chris Hansen. And I'll be damned if I show a random girl off the internet and risk their safety. At least with Daniela, it's an old picture and I can ensure nothing will ever happen to her. Handing the phone to him, I say lowly, "My latest toy." The words taste like fucking tar on my tongue, but I force them out anyways. Dan's brow skyrockets to his forehead, but an evil, happy little smile forms on his face. "You share?" I nearly break his hand when he hands me the phone back, his gaze lingering on the picture. Instead, I tuck my phone back in my pocket and bare my teeth. I get jealous. His head tilts back and a booming laugh echoes across the space. "Understood, my friend. And when they grow too old?" I smile salaciously. Organs are a hit in the black market. The way this writing truly just tries to tackle every possible human travesty that he is rescuing people from. It's like the book is some conglomeration of whatever horrible thing that a human could possibly do, and they just shoehorn that into some secret society that this man is trying to take down. So apparently by bragging about how much he loves little girls, that's how he was able to get trusted so easily. And he gets invited to an initiation meeting in the society, and I'm just so amazed that his way of earning the bad guy's trust is so easy. Like, you would think that this would take years to do. You would think that their trust would have to be earned in more subtle and nuanced ways. Like, they're not just gonna believe some guy that comes out of nowhere and is like, "Hey guys, I love little girls. Look at all these pictures I have on my phone." Truly, all he had to do was just be like, "I like kids." And they were like, "You're invited." So then in the next chapter, Addie sees on the TV about the murders that have happened at the haunted fair, and she knows that Zade is behind them, and she's like, "Geez, this guy is so dangerous. I should really break things off." But you know she won't. And then like clockwork, Zade sneaks into her place again, and she puts up a resistance, and she's like, "No, you did a bad thing." "Stop," I snap, struggling against him. "I'm not letting you do this. You just murdered dangerous people, Zade, which means they have dangerous friends. It's like Max all over again. You're a monster. The hand still wrapped around my throat tightens before he thumps my head against the wall, ceasing my struggles. And you're the sweet little angel that I'm going to drag down to hell with me. Tell me, Addie, do you think killing pedophiles is wrong? I think killing people is wrong, I shout in his face. Why? He volleys back. Because society told you it was? Because humans fabricated morals so they can control and manipulate people into law and order? Do you think other mammals follow the same morals and rules? We're all fucking animals, baby. The only difference is I don't suppress mine. First of all, what the fuck kind of question is, do you think killing pedophiles is wrong? Bitch, be for real here. This guy is supposed to be this bad boy character, but the book tries so hard to justify his actions because it's like, yeah, he murders people, but they are like the lowest scum of society because they're traffickers and pedophiles and like they do all these horrible things. So how is that really morally gray? How is that him being like a bad guy? And I feel like the harder challenge to do that would have been more effective and nuanced if it was done right is if the guy genuinely did shit that you don't agree with. Of course, people are not going to give a shit that he murders people if those people were like the scum of society in the first place. That's not something that the readers are going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to feel about this guy. But you know what? It works for Addie because they end up having sex. She, again, keeps going back and forth between being like, this guy is so wrong and messed up, and being like, I'm actually really horny and I'm enjoying this. But perhaps the worst offense of all, it's not even him murdering people. It's saying lines like this. One day you will realize that you are not trapped in a prison. You are in my church where I am your God and you are my equal. I'm not a jail, little mouse. I am your sanctuary. My mouth dries. The tip of my tongue darts out, wetting my bottom lip and swiping across his lips. Just a brush, but enough to light a spark. An answering growl arises as I ask, does that make me a goddess? He pulls me impossibly closer, his lips now press against mine lightly. Baby, you rule the fucking kingdom and I will gladly bow to you. This shit was so cringy. Like, I just know they are the couple that will be having sex under the blankets at Central Park in broad daylight. They are the couple that makes it uncomfortable for everyone in the vicinity. You just know that they are the nasty couple that go way too far with the PDA in public. So then we get several pages of them having sex, and then we get to the orgasm. And I want to point out this line here when she finally reaches that orgasm. The hand on my hair grips tighter until strands are ripping from my scalp. His fiery eyes catch mine, holding me hostage as I climb higher and higher to a cliff far beyond Parsons Manors. The one and only cliff I wouldn't mind jumping off of, even if I would never get back up again. Let me feel you fall in love, he whispers. First of all, that kind of line would instantly make my vagina shrivel. Any kind of orgasm I would reach would instantly be gone. But second of all, what do you mean strands are ripping from her head? Don't tell me he's fucking making her go bald while they're doing it. Maybe that was like a way to commemorate Archibald? I don't know, but that's kind of concerning. So then in the next chapter, we see his perspective the next morning. She's nervous, fidgety, whereas before she could hardly look at me out of fear and hatred, and now it's because she remembers how many different positions I fucked her in last night. My dick legitimately hurts. I don't think I've ever fucked so much in one night, but I'd keep going if it wouldn't literally send me to my knees if I got hard right now. I bowed for Addie several times last night, worshipping her pussy just like I promised, but this time I'd be bowing from pain and praying for my dick not to fall off. That line literally made me laugh out loud when I first read it because it's like, y'all are fucking crazy. Y'all are insane for this. And I just know exactly the kind of couple like this that would exist in real life and that would be really into this shit. Addie and I are leaning against the railing on her balcony. It's an unusually warm day as we near winter, so we both decided to enjoy it. She sips her coffee, her hair tangled and frizzy from last night and blowing gently in the breeze. I think my hands were in her hair so often, the strands had dried while wrapped around my fingers. What the fuck do you mean the strands dried around your fingers? I'm just imagining Addie to look like a troll doll with the hair nearly ripped out, and he just has like these hairy hands from like the crazy ass sex that they had. They are truly bananas, and maybe it just goes to show that there's someone out there for everyone. So in this morning, they're having a conversation on the balcony where they talk about how wild it is that the main character's great-grandmother had a stalker that she also fell in love with, and he asked her if she thinks that they are reincarnations and that maybe he stalked her for lifetimes. My hand snaps out, grabbing the back of her head and bringing her in close. She gasps, her pink lips parting, and in this moment, all I want to do is slip my cock past them and watch them wrap around me. I'd walk on glass if it meant getting to fuck Addie's mouth again. She struggles, but I hold her steady, her hands planted on the railing to support her weight. Her purple robe is draped open, but not enough to expose the bite marks I left last night on her tits. You're right, I do love the sound of watching you for lifetimes. I drop my voice low as deep as I want to shove my cock inside her. I also love the possibility that I have fallen in love with you in each life. Fuck that sweet pussy of yours and made you fall in love with me as much as I am with you. What did I tell you, little mouse? That you couldn't escape me? If it's real, then I've chased you across time and space and you've never been able to get away. Imagine being so extra that you end up developing a new kink, which is the idea of soulmates. They truly read This Is How You Lose the Time War, and they were like, you know what would make this so much better? If we had less good writing and more bad sex. My little unsuspecting mouse, living each life without any knowledge of what's to come, not knowing that I'm yearning for you, watching in the distance until I make myself known. For centuries, both of us wearing different faces, inhabiting different bodies, but the same souls colliding over and over until this planet decides to crumble and our souls have nowhere else to go. Can you imagine it? I asked softly. Can you imagine what it would feel like to have my love for that long? She swallows, her eyes pinned on the water beyond the cliff as a shaky breath loosens past her lips. Do you know what it sounds like to drown? That's what it would sound like, she says, her voice husky and uneven. Tell me, baby, what does this drowning sound like? The way that this monologue just goes on and on and on about the soulmate concept, and it is so shoehorned in because the whole side plot with the great grandmother falling in love with her stalker has no relevance to the present day events that are going on. They are not reincarnations. He's not revealed to be a vampire that's like the same stalker. That would have actually been an interesting plot point. It's not some commentary about how abuse is very cyclical across generations. It's none of that. It's really like them mentioning the great grandmother as a way to shoehorn in this random ass concept of having soulmates, and he's being so extra about it. And the gag is she is eating it up. They truly are the cringiest couple that you could ever meet. Like if you ever met a couple like that in real life, you would never go over to their house because you would just be terrified of what you would find with the black light. So while he's being extra, she notices that he seems more intense than usual. And so this is when she asks if he's okay, and that's when he admits that he got shitty news this morning. She asks if he wants to talk about it, and he asks if she wants to even hear about it because it involves what he does for a living and what he does to people he catches. Tell me, she says, her tone firm and unyielding. I want to know everything, ... about you. You mean besides what it feels like to have my cock in every hole of your body? She scoffs, a pretty blush staining her cheek. You have not, she snaps. Yet, I promise. I haven't taken her ass yet, but I fully intend to, soon. Zade, focus, she hisses, but her clenched thighs and brown eyes don't go unnoticed. You know what's so wild to me? The fact that they can have such serious conversations about him doing his job, which is to rescue these innocent children from being trafficked, but it's also very easy for them to switch over to horny mode, because she's like, stop it, Zade. Focus already. Okay, come on, what's the traumatic thing that you went through? Be serious here. Stop talking about ass play, okay? So the bad news that he got was that a video actually leaked of a sadistic ritual that was performed by the society that he's tracking down, where they sacrificed a child and drank his blood. And the most recent ritual that was performed was actually when he was there, and he didn't know that that was going on. So he's blaming himself about it, and Addie is trying to comfort him. You didn't know that's what was happening. You can't blame yourself for that. The fuck I can't, I snap. I didn't build Z and become who I am today to allow for a child to be sacrificed right fucking below me and watch sick fucks drink their blood like it's goddamn water. I've dedicated almost 6 years to eradicating human trafficking. Seattle happens to be a prime location for pedophile rings, but in reality, they're everywhere, and I plan to take them all down, or as many as I can until this life takes me down first. She stares for a moment in silence, and then she looks up at him and she says, why? Why did you choose to put your life in danger and hunt down these people and kill them? What made you decide to do this? And in the moment where you're expecting him to say his tragic background story that will finally get us to understand why he's so fucking extra about it and has a savior complex and acts like he's a fucking Batman in the whole world, instead, he says, because I want to, baby. Her brows jump in surprise, not expecting my answer. You're expecting me to give you a legitimate reason for why I took this path in life. Maybe I had a sister or a mother who was kidnapped and sold. Maybe I was myself, but none of those things are the case. When I learned about human trafficking and the depth of its depravity, I was sickened, and I have the skill to do something about it, so I am. I'm saving innocent people because I want to, and I'm torturing and murdering the bad because I want to. And the reason I stalk you, little mouse, is because I want to. Everything I do in life is my choice. I choose my morals. I choose the ones that are worth saving and the ones that are worth killing, and I choose you. If you're expecting a tragic story, you're not gonna get one. My parents were incredible people who loved me and supported me. They died in a car crash when I was 17. The roads were terrible, and they hydroplaned off a cliff. I lived with my father's best friend, my godfather, for a year before going to college for computer science and started my career as a hacker. My parents' death was heartbreaking drinking, but an accident. Aside from losing them, nothing bad has ever really happened to me that would lead me to slaughter evil people for a living. I make my own choices in life, Addie. That's all there is to it. Okay. So you had a comfortable life and you were a privileged white man. You know, if anything, that actually does explain why you're a fucking weirdo and why you think this shit is edgy. He's going on and on about how this is his choice and he decides what he wants to do in life, and it's like, we get it. You have the basic concept of agency and decision making. He's like, I'm not like other tortured love interests because I don't need to have a reason to be a bad boy with a heart of gold. I can just do it for absolutely no reason, and that makes me better than the rest of them. And you know this guy is so into himself and his savior complex because of this. Despite the severity of the conversation, my cock hardens to steal on my jeans. I'm tempted to unzip, bend her over the railing, and take her right there. The fact that he would even talk about his noble mission to save all these women and these children, and he gets hard from that and wants to fuck her right there, just goes to show he gets turned on by himself. Is it really for a selfless reason? Or is it just really because you're super into yourself? I think this dude just gets off on the idea of being a hero and being a savior and also being a god, because he's the one who's deciding who gets to live and die, and he's the one deciding like his own moral judgments. He wants to be the jury and executioner, and he wants to like jack off to that at the same time. Here's another weird revelation. Addie says, one last question. Ask me as many as you want. The roses. Why the roses? I smile. I was waiting for her to ask me about those. My mother, her favorite flower were roses. She always had them all over their house with the thorns clipped so I wouldn't hurt myself. One year, I told her that I would be sad when she died because all the roses would die with her. So she gave me a plastic rose and said that as long as I had that rose, she would never truly be gone. Wait a minute. So roses make you think of your mom, but the whole time when you were stalking Addie and killing the people that she hooked up with and then leaving roses at her doorstep, that was also because you were thinking of your mom while you were stalking the girl that you want to fuck? Are you sure you don't have any issues? It's getting a little weird here. Why, oh why does it always lead back to Freud? So at some point in their conversation, Addie's friend Daya walks in, and that's when she recognizes her employer, because again, Daya works as a hacker. Zade has many employees that work under him, so of course the two hackers in the book know each other. He is her boss, and then she also realizes that Addie and Zade are together. Mine and Addie's heads both turn at the same time. Standing in her bedroom staring at us with a mixture of disbelief and anger is Addie's best friend. Hello, Daya, I greet, my mask falling into place as I smirk and step away from Addie. My little mouse is embarrassed. I note the hint of shame, but it was expected. It's going to take time for Addie to truly accept within herself that she has given in to her stalker. What the hell? Is this him? My smirk widens and I turn to look at Addie. Have you been gossiping about me, little mouse? Did you tell her how big my cock is? You know, maybe the reason why she doesn't want to introduce you to her friends is because you would legitimately be so embarrassing to date. Imagine your friend caught you with this dude and that was the first line that he said to your friend. The way I would die of shame and embarrassment. And you know your friends would make fun of you so bad. You would never live that down. So he says to Daya, I hope you understand that Addie never really stood a chance. Don't blame her. Addie crosses her arms, huffing at me and finally finding her voice. All I had to do was piss her off. I make my own decisions, Zade. Quit acting like I didn't have a choice. You know, we're really talking a lot about choices, but did she ever really have a choice? Because he was doing a lot of things despite her saying no, and he was in control the whole time. So clearly he doesn't believe that she had a choice. So how exactly is she supposed to be his equal? Like the book keeps on insisting that she is. They don't have an even playing field. Just because she keeps on insisting that it was her choice doesn't mean it actually is. Because last time I checked, the several times I checked actually, he's been the one snatching her up, kidnapping her, torturing her. This was like no mastermind plan that she had all along. You can't just say that this was your choice just because you happen to have enjoyed it. The point is he still inflicted that upon you in the first place. Anyway, the friend is obviously less concerned than I am because she's just like, whatever, I'm down for it. Knowing that Z is your stalker oddly reassures me. I never knew him personally, obviously. I didn't even know what he looked like, but what he does, is incredibly admirable. He puts his life on the line every day, walks into the lion's den himself, and saves a lot of innocent souls. He's helped countless people and taken down so many rings already, and I don't have to see what's in the videos to know that Z takes them to heart. He stalks people for a living, so I suppose it's no surprise that tendency has bled into his love life. Damn girl, you wanna kneel down and suck his dick too? Imagine riding that hard for your boss and you're not even the one fucking him. You're just licking his boots at this point. The way the entire book is just a giant circle jerk for this guy. How can a character actually be morally gray if most people can generally agree that pedophiles and human traffickers are horrible people? And it's just so rich that even the friend is like, damn, I can't even fault you for this because he's just so amazing. So then we switch over to Zade's point of view, where he's still beating himself up over the child who died. Not sure how he has time between getting horny, but glad he has a basic human conscience. His coworker Jay tries to comfort him and say you can't change what has already happened and you can't save them all, but he's like, no, I must angst. I watched them drink the blood of a little boy, an 8-year-old kid who sacrificed on some stone altar to welcome new members of a devil-worshipping, blood-drinking pedophile club. I'll never understand why. I'll never understand the desire to hurt someone so young, so pure, so innocent, but those qualities are what attract them. That's what draws the devil to the angel. They want to corrupt, to hurt, to taint, to cause harm and suffering upon those that never asked for it. That's the sick thrill of it. He was 8 years old, Jay. I grind out through gritted teeth. He had a family, 2 mothers, 3 brothers, and a sister. He was loved. He was brought up in a good home by parents who loved him, and they stole him in a fucking grocery store and sold him to the skin trade and used him as a fucking sacrifice. Hold up, the kid had 2 mothers? That's a low blow. It's not just the fact that he has a loving family, but he had lesbian parents too. That's what's so sickening about it all. Don't you know that Zade is pro-LGBT as well? I already went on my whole spiel about how trafficking doesn't actually work like this, but I have to emphasize once again, kids do not randomly get snatched up for trafficking in a grocery store. That is not how it works. They're not gonna do it in broad daylight. They're not gonna do it for kids who have actual families. I guess in order to have pity for the children, we gotta have them be regular kids instead of those in the crossroads of marginalized communities. You know, actual vulnerable populations that would be in danger for this. So anyway, Zade continues to be undercover as a pedophile and visits one of their houses. And from there, he gets initiated into this dinner party for the secret society of pedos. The way I just know he binge watched so many Chris Hansen episodes and is living the dream right now. Dan's house is just as ostentatious as any person with a bank account sitting in the millions. His house is rustic, with an accent wall made of wood to imitate a cabin, exposed beams, wooden floors that he paid big money to look weathered, and a ton of tan and brown accents. Abstract paintings decorate the walls, each painting with an earthy tone of reds, browns, and yellows. I pause at one in particular, the drone of Daniel greeting other guests behind me, turning into a low buzz. The painting looks like 2 big brown eyes with streaks of bright red trailing from them. Soft yellows and reds make up the round, short curves of the girl's face. My eyes roam, taking in every detail until the full picture comes together. It's a little girl crying tears of blood. Beautiful, isn't it? I drag my eyes away to find Daniel standing next to me, his eyes roving over the painting with a wicked gleam in his eyes. I like how the prose when it comes to describing like the settings of things is so limited that the only way that you can describe the interiors of a house is by saying the walls were red, brown, yellow, then this was red, then this was yellow. Like, we are really working with a limited vocabulary here. But also, what the fuck kind of interior decorator designed this place? That designer was truly like, what is the most cartoonishly evil thing that we can put in a place for pedophiles? I know, a little girl crying tears of blood. I'll just go over to my local Hot Topic and ask one of the artists to commission something for me. While Zade is infiltrating this house, we cut to Adeline's perspective, to which she is so concerned, mostly for herself though. I go to bed that night just a little drunk and even sadder. I miss Zade. He's off doing something dangerous tonight, some dinner party. I know he's there to save a little girl, but there's still that selfish part of me that wishes he were here. My instinct is to hate myself for it. Part of me still does. I don't know how long it's going to take before I fully accept the fact that I've started to fall for him, that I'm accepting him into my life. How long has he been stalking me for? 3 months? Not very long at all. In fact, that's such an insignificant amount of time, it almost makes me sick. There's still so much I don't know about him. What's his favorite color? Does he have allergies? I hope he's allergic to all my favorite foods so I don't have to share. Or at least I hope he doesn't like them. More for me. And I hope I don't like his favorite foods, because if I do, I'll probably eat off his plate too. He probably wouldn't mind, and that softens my heart into a pile of mush, because somehow a man that wouldn't care if I ate his food fell in love with me. That's so fucking cute. What the fuck is this writing? What the fuck are you even talking about? Is this just stream of consciousness at this point? Like, if I was talking to someone who was just rambling on and on about this shit, I'd be like, bitch, stop. Are you okay? Did you have a lobotomy? Because I feel my IQ slipping down just from from talking to you? Also, what do you mean this only has been going on for 3 months? Why has this felt like years every time I read an excerpt from this shit? It's only been 3 months and you're already this bad? Girl, stand up. Anyway, we cut back to Zade because obviously Addie, whose entire identity revolves around this man, has nothing else going on. Like literally the love interest has more of a side plot than the main character does. So he's having dinner with the Secret Society of Pedos. A servant brings in a little girl who is 5 years old. They say, dinner is served. And this is like some sick twisted thing that they're into now. So basically their plan is to use her as a sacrifice for some demonic ritual and then drink her blood because they specifically need virgin blood to drink for some reason. Again, there's no explanation for why they're doing all of this. We started off with a very simple basic human trafficking ring. I don't know how it got convoluted to like Satanism and like drinking blood all of a sudden, but whatever. So Zade tries to postpone this by saying, hey, come on my pedo bros, don't we want to have fun with her first? He gets her to sit on his lap and says he wants alone time with her, and the whole time he's thinking like, oh, this is so sick and twisted, but I'm only doing this so that I can get her safe out of here. Daniel says instead of Zade being alone with the girl that he would prefer to watch, and he's saying this while he's rubbing himself under the table, and then Zade growls back that he doesn't like to share, and then they're having this weird face off, and that's when the FBI come barging in. FBI, get down on the ground now! The door to the dining room crashes open, eliciting more screams. Several FBI agents storm the room, shouting out demands for everybody to get down. Let's go, I whisper to the girl, attempting to guide her towards the kitchen door. She struggles and screams for one of the guests, that dormant fire in her finally erupting. I'm so fucking proud of her. I pick her up and whisper in her ear, those FBI agents are at me. I'm gonna take you back home, but I need you to work with me. The second the word home leaves my mouth, her struggling ceases. She looks at me, her brown eyes full of tears. You could be lying, she sniffles, distrust in her eyes. Another surge of pride overtakes me as I stuff my hand in my pocket and pull out a fake FBI badge, flashing it to her discreetly. The first lie I've truly told her. She reluctantly concedes, nodding her head. I bolt towards the kitchen door, not wasting another second. Bro, your whole mission was to save this little girl, but instead of letting her go to the actual authorities, you're telling her to go with you while you sneak off so that you don't get caught canoodling with pedos for your own mission, and you lie to her that you're an FBI agent. What the fuck is this undercover mission supposed to be now? Because it kind of sounds like you would rather be the hero and feel like the main character instead of actually giving this kid to the professionals who are trained for this. Do you know if mommy and daddy are alive? I nearly trip over my feet when she asks the question. Considering I didn't know the girl's identity beforehand, I haven't had a chance to look into her background. I have no idea who her parents are or what kind of home she comes from. You have no idea how to answer these questions. Isn't it supposed to be your job? You're supposed to be the best hacker in the world, dedicating your whole life mission to rescuing these kids, and you didn't do any kind of research on these victims? Or were you just too busy tripping over your god complex? You were clearly too preoccupied with acting like Batman to do any kind of research. Maybe those are the answers that the FBI would have known if you hadn't snatched her away. But before I can rag on this guy some more, it actually turns out that this was all according to Zade's plan, because he was the one who brought in the FBI, and they're actually fake actors pretending to be the FBI. They're false agents to begin with, hired by myself. Luckily, I have a few high-ranking FBI agents in my pocket, which is the only thing that made this night possible. They'll bring Dan down to the station on suspicion of smuggling drugs. They will release him by tomorrow morning when they don't find anything. Dan will insist the FBI agents responsible be fired, and considering no real agents were involved, the fake ones will be easily let go of. False paperwork will be filed, and Dan will be satisfied, or as satisfied as you can be when your dinner party is interrupted by your front door getting kicked in. Okay, so this was supposed to be like a reverse Uno moment where it turns out he was the mastermind all along. What I'm wondering is, I'm assuming this whole plan was concocted so he could rescue this one girl. He hired fake FBI people to arrest Dan, and later Dan is gonna be let go because he's not actually smuggling drugs. But we know that Dan has been trafficking and doing weird rituals with the children, right? And we also know, since he has confirmed, he has real FBI agents in his contacts. So why didn't you just call the actual FBI agents and get him arrested for real instead? Because then you could have saved the girl and got him arrested, and then killing two birds with one stone, save all the other children that have been connected to this weird ass society. I don't know. I'm not a hacker genius like Zade is, so maybe I'm just not as smart enough as him to follow this plan. I'll try to find your mommy and daddy, okay? If I can't, I'll make sure you're safe. She nods her little head, her brown eyes now lashed back onto me. Then will you be my daddy? Can't say I've ever been asked that one before. I forced a smile. Adoption isn't out of the question, but that's something I'll have to consult with Addie first. She'd be her mommy after all. Please please, for the love of God, do not ever let Zade and Addie be the parent to any child. I would argue that being around those two would still traumatize the children, considering they do dirty talk and grope each other in front of children, as seen earlier in part 1 of my video. Also, Addie would not be a good mother for a multitude of reasons, but one of them is the fact that when we cut to her in that chapter from before, instead of her thinking, oh man, I hope the children that Zade is rescuing are gonna be safe, she's just thinking, man, I miss my stalker because I'm horny. Like, she literally has nothing else going on in her brain than being turned on by a stalker. So how the fuck is she gonna be a mother? And if her kid ends up having a stalker, how is she gonna act about that? Huh? I say keep these two far away from children. Anyway, the little girl does end up being saved because one of his workers takes her to a safe place and then he goes back home. When he's back, he sees that Addie is sleeping. Despite her disheveled state, my cock is incredibly hard. The witch went to bed in nothing but a white silky set, and the second I slowly drew back the covers, I nearly went to my knees. Did my little mouse wear that just for me? Reaching out, I trace a finger up her thigh, enjoying the sight of her skin puckering. She shifts, moaning softly at the disturbance in her sleep. How would she feel waking up with my cock inside her? Well, if she were any rational person, she would say that that is rape. Surely that's something that you should be familiar with, considering that's what you dedicated your whole life mission to protecting. Also kind of weird that you're in the mood for this after you just witnessed this depraved act of humankind. Like, you just got surrounded by the worst kinds of men who are ogling little girls like this, and then you are still in the mood to get it on when you're back home. I mean, I gotta commend the work-life balance. He's able to compartmentalize so easily. Her eyes flutter and I watch as she regains consciousness. When her eyes slide up to my face, they widen ever so slightly. I could have tried to fuck her while asleep, but I decided to hold off on that until Addie admits her love for me and freely accepts mine, until I can fuck her without a fight, though I think some part of Addie will always fight me. Although I've taken advantage of Addie on several occasions, at least her being awake and coherent allowed me to watch her body's reactions. Doesn't make it right, but her body has always wept for me, and if it ever didn't, I wouldn't have touched her until it did. Why are you in my bed staring at me like a creep? She asks. I chuckle. I thought it'd been established that I'm a creep already. Wow, it's almost like if he admits to being a creep, that absolves him of being a creep. What a gentleman for holding off on having sex with her while she's asleep and waiting until she's awake first. They really say chivalry is dead, but I'm so glad that the book tells us over and over that Zade is such a good guy. What I'm starting to suspect on him supposedly being morally gray is the fact that he's doing these things that are wrong, like with Addie, right? With the stalking and not really listening to her consent and stuff, but then he's doing things that are like good for the society, like taking care of children and women who are victims of traffickers. And maybe that's supposed to be like the morally gray complexity of humankind or some shit like that. But I don't think you can have two contradicting things together and say that it's supposed to make a character more complex. That just makes him a hypocrite. And I don't think he was supposed to be like a hypocrite, because the way that the writing makes it seem like it seems like we're supposed to think he's such an amazing dude. She trails her fingers across the tattoos on my chest, her eyes averted firmly away from mine. Do these mean anything? No, I answer. I have them because I like them. I prefer to keep anything of significance as a possession. Why? I would think your body would be the one place you would have anything meaningful. You carry it around everywhere you go. My body is just a vessel that my soul inhabits. Attached to a shell, it will one day leave. And when that day comes, I won't care to let that shell go. I carry my body around because I have to, not because it's a choice. But when I possess something meaningful, I'm choosing to hold on to it. Carrying something meaningful in my skin is effortless, but holding on to something I could lose, that takes devotion. Wow, he said body neutrality. I too am 14 and think this is deep. Speaking of deep, he orders her to sit on his dick, and then she does because she's into it, and then they're both having a good time while she's riding him, and then he orders her to run, and she's like, but again, because hide and seek is their kink, she gets up and runs and he chases after her. Literally less than a page later, he catches her. You would think that since their kink is chasing each other around like they're squirrels, that they would put more effort into it, you know, make it more of a challenge, but hey, I'm not very athletic either, so you know. They do the nasty again while he has his hand around her throat like she's Bart Simpson, and this is how he describes his orgasm. I lose myself. My name, my identity, my soul has been hurtled away into the vortex our bodies have created, like being sucked into a wormhole and kicked out into the new universe. You telling me the cooch was so good it opened a vortex? Are we entering the multiverse in Adeline's cooch? Maybe this is why he's so obsessed with her. He's like, I'm ready to see everything everywhere all at once. I'm ready to open my fucking third eye right here while I get into her third eye, if you know what I mean. After they have sex, he updates her about his little escapade at the pedo dinner. The little girl I saved, Sarah, she asked if I'd be her daddy. Addie's head snaps up so quickly she comes close to breaking it. Careful, this world will be in trouble if you died. Her mouth flops. What did you say? I shrugged. I didn't really get to say anything. She had to leave so I could go get fake arrested. If I didn't, Dan and the society might have found her way too convenient. Luckily, I was able to play on a charge that Dan has gotten in the past. She blinks. Would you? Adopt her, I mean? I wouldn't do anything without your say-so, but yes, I would. She swallows. Why do you need my permission? You think I stalked you just because I wanted a quick thrill? No, baby. It's you and me forever, which means if I become a daddy, then you become a mommy. Don't worry about that right now. Sarah is safe, and at the moment, we're more worried about her trauma and getting her mental health taken care of. Please, for the love of fucking God, do not adopt this girl. She has been through enough. She has been surrounded by too many goddamn weirdos, and the last thing she needs to be around is more fucking weirdos like you too. And if you really want to preserve her mental health, you nasty ass people would stay far away from her. Like somebody called CPS. I don't even want to entertain the idea of these people adopting any kinds of children. Afterward, he meets up with Dan because again, Dan got let go. Dan invites him to another place where they do another ritual, which means Zade has another undercover mission. And once again, if the actual FBI had been involved in this and taken this dude down, Zade wouldn't be here in the first place going undercover. Like he would be done. Why are we still doing round 2? I feel like at this point, he must just like the thrill of going undercover with these people than actual justice. So they go into this dark space that's kind of like an underground cave, and it's lit by hundreds of candles, and in the center of the room is a stone altar that has a little girl tied on top of it, and she's around 6 to 7 years old. And the way that the place is described is very stereotypical like cult kind of bullshit with like chanting and the candles and everything. And Dan tells Zade, to your left are the stairs. Go ahead and stand by the altar. One of you will be offered the knife to bleed out the sacrifice. Drink the blood and you will be initiated into the society. This shit is the most ridiculous depiction of trafficking ever. I don't even think Riverdale would go this low. Like it's getting to a point where if I had been a trafficking victim or I knew someone that had been a victim of that, this shit would really make me so offended and pissed off. Because why are we participating in this clownery? This shit is so unserious. Editing Cindy here to just point out this reply to part 1 of my comments. Apparently in the original digital release and in the still available short story in the same universe, the rich dudes who are like the traffickers and pedophiles and they're doing like the blood sacrifices were explicitly Jewish. They had Jewish surnames and stereotypes about their features. She changed it in the print version because she got called out, but the side story, as far as I know, still has a lot of it. You know, the blood sacrifices are starting to make a lot more sense now for why she added that in. Yikes. Finally, Zade decides to end the shenanigans by stabbing people. Then his workers come in and they rescue the girl that's tied to the stone altar, and then an explosion blasts the cave, and it turns out that it was all set up and an evil society knew that Zade and his team were coming. Maybe those are the consequences of what happens when you are so dead set on feeling like a hero and a main character instead of calling the actual authorities to do something about it. So yeah, he's in trouble, and so is Addie, because in the next chapter and in the final chapter, Addie is driving somewhere and she gets chased by another car that crashes into her, and the book ends with a cliffhanger. The man grabs my arm and works my body out of the driver's side window, dragging my body across glass and sharp metal. Stop it, I moan, sobbing as he finally gets me out. Why are you doing this? Panting, the man leans over me and looks me over. Once you're healed up, you're gonna be worth a pretty penny, he says, a crooked grin on his face. Just let her in the van, Rio. Max is already gonna be pissed we fucked up his van, so quit fucking around. The police will be here soon. Another flash of a grin. Time to go to sleep, princess. And then darkness. So that is the end of the Haunting Adeline book, and it will be continued in the sequel, Haunting Adeline, which is a book that I have not read yet because I need to take a break before I continue on to book 2, because that was a lot. And not only was it a lot, it was quite repetitive too. So the Haunting Adeline book is 583 pages long. Brevity, we don't know her. Based on a cliffhanger, it is to be assumed that Addie got kidnapped by one of the bad guys that has been trafficking women. Again, it doesn't make sense to me why Addie would be their #1 target, because she is an established person in society, because she's a writer, she has family, she has friends. Like, it makes no sense why they would choose her, because people are gonna wonder where she is. But this is all just an excuse for Zade to come rescue her, and you know what, she's gonna get turned on anyway and cream her pants, so good for them, I guess. And so this concludes my video for Haunting Adeline. It will be quite a while before I read Haunting Adeline and make a video for that. My next few roast videos are gonna be different books just because I want to change it up a little bit. Thanks for coming along with me on this journey, and if you would like a break like I do, perhaps look into more peaceful journeys like June's journey. Again, you can download them for free by clicking on the link in my description below or scanning the QR code in my screen. So thank you again to them for sponsoring this video, and I will see you next time on my channel. Goodbye. I wanna see that you want me, snatch me up.